Picture this. You're sitting in an algebra exam, and you're faced with a problem that looks deceptively simple. But deep down, you know it's going to eat up 5 solid minutes of your time. Okay, let's dive straight into this and look at exactly what I mean. Look at this. How long would it take you to multiply out 1 plus I to the 5th power? If you use traditional algebra, you're writing out 1 plus I 5 separate times, right? You're using the FOIL method over and over and over again. You have to carefully track your negative signs every single time an I squared pops up. It's tedious, it's incredibly frustrating, and honestly, it's a massive trap for simple arithmetic errors. But what if I told you there's a shortcut? By the end of this lecture, you're going to understand a completely different way to look at complex numbers, the mathematical theorem behind it, and exactly how to apply it to solve this exact problem, not in 5 minutes, but in literally a matter of seconds. So to understand this shortcut, we have to look at where complex numbers actually come from. The 19th century mathematician Leopold Kronecker famously said, "God made the integers, all else is the work of man." Complex numbers weren't just discovered lying around, they were actively invented by mathematicians over centuries, brilliant minds like Descartes, Euler, and Gauss. They created these numbers to solve mathematical puzzles that everyone else deemed completely impossible. And today, we're going to unlock the mechanics of their invention. Section 1. The complex plane. Now that we understand the historical weight of this, let's look at our visual foundation.
Think of traditional plotting, what we call the rectangular form, kind of like navigating a city grid. If I give you a complex number, a plus bi, you can't just slap it on a standard number line. You need 2 dimensions. Notice how the horizontal axis is your real part, a. The vertical axis is your imaginary part, b. If you want to plot a point, you walk right a certain number of blocks, and then you walk up a certain number of blocks. It's pure grid navigation.
But navigating a grid isn't the only way to measure where you are. The absolutely crucial point here is a concept called the modulus, denoted by absolute value bars around our complex number z. Now with real numbers, absolute value just means distance from 0. Well, in the complex plane, the modulus means the exact same thing. It's the absolute straight line distance from the origin, 0, 0, to your plotted point. We aren't counting city blocks anymore, we're drawing a direct line. Wait, this is super important. Look closely at the modulus formula. It's the square root of x squared plus y squared. Does that look familiar? It really should. It's literally just the Pythagorean theorem in disguise. Let's make this easier with an example. Say our complex number is 3 minus 4i. We go right 3, down 4. To find the straight line distance, we square 3 to get 9 and square negative 4 to get 16. Add them up, you get 25. The square root of 25 is 5, so our modulus is exactly 5. Section 2. Rectangular to polar form. Now that we know how to find our distance, let's introduce the main conceptual shift. We're moving from rectangular form to polar form, and this brilliantly illustrates the difference. Rectangular form is like driving a car through a city grid. Go 3 blocks east, turn, go 4 blocks north. Polar form is flying a helicopter. You don't care about the grid, you just lift off from the origin, rotate the nose of your helicopter to a specific angle, and fly in a straight line for a specific distance. Turn and fly. That's polar form. Here's the mathematical translation of that helicopter flight. The polar form of a complex number is written as z equals r times the quantity cosine theta plus I sine theta. Let's break that down. R is your modulus, that's the distance you fly. Theta is your argument, that's the angle you point your nose. And because mathematicians love efficiency, you'll often see this entire chunk abbreviated as r cis theta, CIS standing for cosine I sine. Let's look at the exact steps to convert any standard complex number into this shiny new polar form. Step 1, calculate your flight distance, r, using our Pythagorean formula, the square root of x squared plus y squared. Step 2, find your angle theta. You do this using the inverse tangent of y over x, just like basic trigonometry. Step 3, plug them right into our new format, r cis theta. Let's lock this in with a quick visual example. Convert z equals 4i. On our grid, 4i means 0 real parts and 4 imaginary parts. You just walk 4 units straight up the vertical axis. So what's the straight line distance from the origin? Well, it's just 4. So r is 4. And what angle points straight up the y-axis? That's 90 degrees, or pi over 2 radians. So our polar form is simply 4 cis pi over 2. Now, you may be sitting there asking a very logical question. Wait. Why are we doing this? If we already have x and y and we can plot it perfectly fine on a grid, why do we need r and beta? Aren't we just adding extra steps for no reason? It's a great question. The answer is that while adding and subtracting are incredibly easy in rectangular grid form, multiplying and dividing are an absolute nightmare. Polar form is about to give us a math superpower. Section 3, polar to rectangular form. But before we get to the magic, I want to quickly show you how easy it is to jump out of the helicopter and back onto the grid. If you're given a number in polar form, like 12 times cosine of pi over 6 plus I sine of pi over 6, and you need standard rectangular form, there's no fancy reverse engineering required at all. You literally just do the math. Evaluate the trig functions. The cosine of pi over 6 is root 3 over 2. The sine is 1 over 2. Plug those in, distribute your 12 across the parentheses, and boom, you're right back to an a plus bi rectangular number. It is that simple. Section 4, Math Magic, de Moivre's Theorem. Let's finally deliver on that promise from the very beginning of the explainer and look at the real power of polar form. I want you to look closely at this table. When you want to multiply two complex numbers in polar form, you don't FOIL anything. You simply multiply their r values together and you add their angles together. That's it. Multiply the lengths, add the angles. Dividing, it's just as easy. Divide the first r by the second r and subtract the bottom angle from the top angle. Let's see how unbelievably fast this is in practice. Say we want to multiply 4 cis 80 degrees by 2 cis 145 degrees. Step 1, multiply the moduli. 4 times 2 is 8. Step 2, add the arguments. 80 plus 145 is 225. Your final answer is 8 cis 225 degrees. What would have taken multiple steps of tedious complex algebraic multiplication is reduced to literal primary school addition. And this brings us to the ultimate shortcut, Abraham de Moivre's theorem. De Moivre realized that if multiplying two polar numbers means adding their angles, then raising a number to a power, which is really just multiplying it by itself repeatedly, has an incredibly simple rule. To raise a complex number to the power of n, you just raise your modulus r to the power of n, and you multiply your angle theta by n. The formula you see here, z to the n equals r to the n, cis n times theta, is your ultimate cheat code. So let's go back and crush that painful problem from our hook. We want to solve 1 plus I to the 5th power. Step 1, convert to polar. R is the square root of 1 squared plus 1 squared, so root 2. The angle pointing to the coordinate 1, 1 is exactly 45 degrees, or pi over 4. So our base is root 2 cis pi over 4. Step 2, apply de Moivre's theorem for the power of 5. Raise root 2 to the 5th power, which gives us 4 root 2. Then, just multiply our angle by 5, giving us 5 pi over 4. Step 3, convert it back. Evaluate the sine and cosine of 5 pi over 4. Distribute your 4 root 2. And in exactly 3 lines of work, you arrive at your final answer, -4 minus 4i. No tedious foiling required whatsoever. Section 5, finding complex roots. Because if we can fast forward using powers, you bet we can also rewind. Think about it. If raising a number to a power means multiplying the angle, taking the root of a number naturally means dividing the angle. The nth root theorem states we take the real nth root of our modulus r, and we divide our angle theta by n. But look closely at the numerator of our angle there. There's a crucial addition of plus 2k pi. Because going in a full circle around the complex plane brings you right back to the same spot, complex roots are periodic. We have to capture every single one of them. Time for a common mistake checkpoint. Listen, this trips up students constantly. If you're asked to find the cube root of a complex number, there isn't just one answer. There are 3 distinct roots in the complex plane. You find the first one by setting k to 0. You find the second one by setting k to 1, effectively adding a rotation. You find the third by setting k to 2. Always, always remember to add that full periodic circle divided by n to find your next root. Okay, before we finish up, let's summarize the key points of your brand new toolkit. You now know that polar form, r cis theta, is like flying a helicopter straight to a point. When you multiply complex numbers, you just add their angles. When you divide, you subtract their angles. And when you use powers, thanks to our friend de Moivre, you simply multiply the angle by the exponent n. You've basically traded a grid for a steering wheel, and your math has become incredibly fast. But all of this leaves us with a really fascinating final question. If stepping off the standard XY grid and using angles and distances makes complex algebra this easy, what happens when we apply this exact same logic to equations describing real-world motion? What if we separate our x and y completely and base them on time instead?
Well, that leads us perfectly into the world of parametric equations, which is exactly what we'll be covering in